From the very beginning of our Tai Chi training, we've always learned the movements and the martial applications. Push hands is an extension of the martial application of Tai Chi. Now, in every other martial art that we've studied, the main focus has always been on footwork. If your feet move, it's easier to defend and it's easier to attack. Push hands also applies this with a moving step push hands. In this video, we're going to show you how to do single step push hands. Tai Chi is all about teaching the body how to coordinate every single part of it to work together. Push hands is no different. Now, in the beginning, what you're going to see a lot of is what they call fixed step push hands, which means he can't move his feet, I can't move my feet. That's mainly because it's hard to get people to get the coordination just with the upper body. But now that I ask you to move your feet, that's a whole nother level of coordination on top of it. So you do want to start with very basic push hands, cooperative, get used to the feeling of it. But once it becomes comfortable, you're not learning anymore. So you have to figure out something else to make it more complicated. And ultimately, when you think about a real fight, do you really want your feet super glued to the ground? Or do you want your feet to be able to move freely and independently from what your hands are doing? That way you can move, you can fight, you can get away and not worry about tripping yourself up. So as you are getting comfortable with your push hands, make sure you're adding moving push hands. We're going to show you single step and free push hands. So if we look at the most basic push hands pattern, we're going with the back of our wrist touching. He's pushing into me. I sit away. I turn, redirect. I push into him. Now with moving step push hands, you're allowed to start moving your feet. Now in this case, if we're doing single step, I can take a step to push him off balance. And you see, once I got that step, how much power I could push into him. You're also allowed to take a step to defend. So if he feels me step into him, he can take a step back to defend that. And look, now he can off balance me. So here's the key. We don't want the defender to step back faster than the person pushing. In that case, he's going to get overextended and our hands become disconnected. That can be a little bit dangerous if you're talking about a real fight. You want to make sure you keep that connection there. So he wants to feel my energy, and when I step, he wants to take the step at the same time. Then once he's redirected, if he wanted to, he could do a pull, but we're going to start off cooperatively. He's now going to push into me. I feel him step. I want to match that. And that time, I went too slow, and you saw me get pushed off backwards. So that's the idea of the moving step push hands, that sensitivity of how fast is that energy coming in. So it might look something like this. In the beginning, I want to watch his hips and his shoulders. That's telling me what his body's doing. But eventually, I should be able to do this not even looking at him and with my eyes closed because I'm simply feeling the energy he's given me. The one thing that you'll notice, we've talked about this before, as I press, I'm pressing with my palm. As he pushes into me, I receive with the back of my hand. This is ergonomically better for giving power. This is better for receiving power. So that's why the circle's being done this way. The one thing you're going to notice is, especially as he does his step with his push, I'm keeping my hand right in front of me. As I do my press, I'm keeping it right in front of my chest. And this is my position of power within my arm where everything is structurally sound. So I want to be careful. When I push, if he lets his arms collapse, I can go ahead and extend that push a little bit. But when I push, if he's defending and I extend that too much, there's going to be the pull that he's going to get. So I want to be careful not to overextend myself. So with that, even when I'm stepping, as he pushes into me, my hand stays right here. As I step into him, my hand stays right here. As we've mentioned in our other push hands videos, the exercise isn't really about victory or defeat. It's really about us testing each other and our ability to generate and redirect energy. But in order to fully test that, you do need to do it competitively. Now, when I say competitively, we're not worried about points. We're not worried about who's getting first place. We're not trying to push each other through the wall. Again, it's kind of a cooperative competitive. When you're doing single step push hands competitively, there are some rules so that you know who won and who lost, so you know how that test went. You're allowed to take a step when you push. You're allowed to take a step when you defend. One step, that's why it's called single step. To give you an idea on what that means, I could step in one step with this foot to do a push, to push him off balance. Or I could take one step with this foot. Problem with that one is you see it leaves me elongated. What I can't do, you'll see some people try to do this, they step one foot and then they shuffle the other foot in, that's 2 steps. I just lost that 1 step. Same thing on the defense. If he's pushing into me, I can take a step to defend. I can then take my step back to push. He pushes me again, I can still step back to defend. I step forward to push. If I want to, I can take another step forward to push to get him to move and generate that extra energy.
As long as those movements are separated, that stepping was all right.
For instance, I couldn't do it like this. That was 2 steps. I lost that push, 2 steps. So to give you an idea on what that might look like, we're going to start off with one hand. And generally the way the moving step works is you'll start off with 2 circles. You might even have a ref in the middle holding your hands together, guiding you in the circle, and then he takes his hand away and he says go. And at that point we can be staying in the same spot. I can take my step. He took his step to defend. He off-balanced me.
I switched hands. I'm not sure I should have done that.
Maybe. But now here's the other point as well. Besides making me go off balance, if I touch the floor with anything but my feet, that's considered a loss. If I'm taking my step to do my push and he redirects and off balances me, well, especially if he can figure out that I'm stepping and I picked my foot up off the ground, now I'm kind of in a precarious position. So that's part of why in a lot of Tai Chi, you'll see when they're doing their form, they glide their foot along the ground. That way they don't see this knee coming up when I go to take my step.
The one thing here, it's really important, again, to check our egos. I know I can feel my balance. If we've been pushing and I felt that he has teetered my balance, I should let him know that because he won. And so that's also for me, how do I fix that and keep my posture? We had one really good push hands instructor come over to one of our Tai Chi workshops. That was the #1 thing that he mentioned, is that when people do push hands, they're being pushed, they'll lean like that to avoid the push, or they'll lean really far forward or on a push, or if he's pulling me, they'll break their posture to try to maintain their balance, but that's not really good. As he pointed out, this is just a game, right? So if he pushes me, instead of me losing my posture, I should just go ahead and take my step.
One final rule to point out about moving step push hands is generally, whether you're doing single step or free step, you're not allowed to touch the legs. So that means we can't be in here doing push hands and I can't grab his knee and push him that way. That would technically be cheating. If I'm taking my step and I step behind his foot and trip him, that's considered cheating. You're not allowed to trip or grab the legs.
A lot of that, though, is agreed upon. If we both say, hey, let's go ahead and allow leg grabs and trips, well, that certainly can be part of my single step.
Make sure that both people agree on that.
And also, if you're going to be doing that, no concrete floors. Make sure you're on a mat. All of that was pretty basic. We were really only focusing on one hand in our push hands. But realistically, we should be using both hands. And the pattern that we start with is pretty much the same. Back of the hand, right? I'm doing the push and the receive, but now the difference is my other hand's on the back of the elbow. And now he's pushing, I'm receiving, I'm pushing, he's receiving. So this is a lot of times when you see push hands competitions, this is where they start from. They would do 2 circles and then get into their push hands. If we started to get our stepping, he would step forward as he pushed and I would step backward. I would step forward. As I push, he steps back. And so now we're in this circle and stepping just like we were doing before with one hand, but now we have it going on with two hands.
The advantage of using that second hand is it gives me another point of contact on the elbow. Now, in a lot of joint locking martial arts, including the ones the police learn, 2 points on the body to control, the wrist and the elbow. I can control his whole body from here. So if he's doing a push and he overextends, I've automatically got that armbar without having to change my arm. So it gives me the ability to feel that, but it also gives him the strategy of thinking about not overextending. If I'm stepping forward and I'm doing a push and he's defending, I've already got my hand here on the elbow. So if he lets that elbow collapse too far, boom, I've got a push right there. So just by having my hand on the elbow, it gives him some more things as the defender to strategize on, and it gives him more things offensively to strategize on. Increases the complexity a little bit. Another two-handed push hands pattern that we had talked about was windmills. The way that worked out is from a fixed step, we'd stand here, we'd have one hand that's on the outside, and we have another hand that's on the inside. And we were just doing circles like this. Now, what this is translating out to is the fact that I'm pushing into him, he's redirecting it and pushing it down. He's pushing into me, I'm redirecting and pushing down. I push him, he pushes me. Now, you want to try not to get disconnected like that just happened, because that gives me a chance to get into the center. And that's part of the challenge of the windmill. Now, if you're applying your step, remember it would be a step in to push, a step back to defend. I can cover distance and I can create distance just in the way that I move my feet. Now you notice I stopped, he stopped too. You don't want to get into this pattern where we're going back and forth and all of a sudden I stop and he keeps moving. We just broke our push hands. He was being sensitive to my energy. So we're being sensitive. I step, he steps. I'm trying to feel what he's doing, not necessarily just go with the pattern. Again, he stopped, I went to move, I felt him stop, so I stopped at the same time. That's ultimately the point of push hands, is to create sensitivity. That was a lot of information, so let's put it together and show you what a single step push hands match would look like. Remember, the rules are that you can use one step to attack, you can use one step to defend, no grabbing the legs. If you're off balance, misstep, or touch the floor, just learn from your loss. As with any skill, it takes practice and proper training to get good at it. So make sure you look for a good school in your area. If you're in Southern Oregon, contact us for our locations and times. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, like it and make sure to share that with a friend. Click the subscribe button and then hit that notification bell so you can catch our next exciting video.